Joining me now live in our Lagos studio to discuss the task ahead for President Muhammadu Buhari for the period he has left in office and his economic team and much more, I have the co-founder of Budget, Joseph Agumbiade. Good to have you on the breakfast show this morning.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much for joining us and happy democracy day.
Same to you.
Well, definitely, the COVID-19 has added to the hurdles government has to face in terms of even funding challenges. But just last week, we saw a move that shared sentiment looking at the commissioning of the Lagos-Ibadan Railway to begin commercial operations. The president says he's committed to infrastructure development. But the bigger conversation is also looking at the need for alternative funding to support rail, road, water, infrastructure in general. We cannot support it with our current budget size or even borrowings. Absolutely.
First of all, I'll congratulate the country. We used to dream of and hear about railway, and it's a good thing to see that in our lifetime, or while I'm still young, we're able to have such an experience. While we rejoice and congratulate the president, we also think that at what cost are we achieving this infrastructural development? And often we were so concerned as citizens at how much government borrow to ensure that we can get this infrastructure. We have to think about it. Every loan that is taken, in as much as it's going to bring about economic growth and all that, we're going to definitely pay back these loans and all that. So what I've been an advocate of is the fact that we have to look inwards and look at public-private partnerships to get people to actually bring this money. As a country, I believe that there are a lot of individuals who actually can afford a lot of this, to put this money down or to go find this money as businessmen, because ultimately, in paying back, who are the people that will manage this system, and all the from historic experience, what will happen to the money that we made from running the system that we're supposed to use to pay back. So those are the things that gives me concern.
But right now, investors are still sitting on the fence because of the security situation in the country right now. So investors who ordinarily will see certain projects as big take-ons are rather a little watchful.
Yeah, so the security situation is something that has really, really impacted us as a country. When you look at, especially the last 2-3 years, not just Boko Haram now, you're looking at the bandits and all of those people that have funny names. I think if there's anything that should be at the front burner for the president is how to curb the security issue as fast as possible. His promises when he was coming in was this security thing, and we are still waiting. As a matter of fact, we think that there's a whole lot that needs to be done. That's the only way we can actually establish, this confidence that we want the investors to have for them to come into our country.
Let's also talk about subsidies as well. Looking at the cost of petrol, the cost of electricity, we've called for cost-reflective tariffs. At the end of the day, it's not. The 2021 budget has no provision for subsidies yet. We are not still doing what we ought to.
Yeah.
The pinch is going to be hard on Nigerians. How do we now marry all of these realities and merge it together to have cost-reflective tariffs?
So if I get your question right, dollar doesn't mean subsidies not being paid, right?
No, looking at, for example, electricity, or looking at price of petrol, for example, now. With our petrol, we are paying 165 to 170. That's the price band that people are buying fuel right now. But according to the markets, platforms and a whole lot more, the forces of demand and supply is saying, well, these prices have to go up. We're looking at issues within our power sector too, where Nigerians are paying for electricity that is not being used, and government is saying, well, we're still trying to perfect the payment plans and cost-reflective tariffs and a whole lot more. So the conversation around subsidies and price control has just not hit the right sentiment with the average Nigerian.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are things that I think should always be prioritized. The whole control, pricing, setting the pricing and all of that taking forever, and we are paying daily for it. It's something that when you go online and then when you talk to individuals, you hear the complaints that we are making. We think that if we allow the market itself to control and regulate itself, ultimately in no time we'll achieve this thing very fast. So I think there are things government should prioritize. Let's settle this whole issue once and for all, and let's move on pricing And then, you know, I mean, in Lagos, we don't expect that everything should be the same thing. We don't expect government to always say, oh, we want to intervene. Allow the market to control its prices, and then ultimately everybody will be happy.
And one of the biggest conversations we have at this point in time is also looking at the fact that we've not had a population census, working with big data. In developing any sort of agenda, economic agenda or political agenda, you have to know the people in your country. You have to know what are the dynamics that make up your population. But we don't have any fresh data. So we are just working based on assumptions. How much does this stifle the impact of any economic policy to have the desired effect?
So the kind of, when it comes to the population census, one of the benefits would be to even know the type of citizens that we have, their needs and specific things that we've not really, looked at. And so there are a lot of analysis that we've not done. And so most of the time when we allocate resources or we say we are coming up with interventions, I believe that we're making a lot of errors because you don't even know these people. So it's beyond just trying to know the exact number of people that we have. It's about trying to know what are these people doing. We keep saying that we're creating intervention in agriculture. When we do this population census, part of the metrics that I believe that we'll be collecting is to actually look at the kind of job people are actually doing. All right. And then know where they are. Because we might be focusing our resources in the wrong places and all that. So I believe it's something that is urgently needed, and we need to get on it fast. Let's not just say we want to count the people. Let's get to know who these people are and what they do in particular. And
emerging sectors of the economy now, let's take for example ICT or fintech. It's a fast evolving space, and Nigeria cannot afford to play catch up, if you understand what I mean, really at this point in time. When we also look at situations of the back and forth we've had with Twitter and a whole lot more, for investors really looking into the future, how do you think this request from government, yes, it's to aid revenue generation and a whole lot more, how do you think this rubs off on that community that would see Nigeria as the hub for ICT and invest and not look to our neighboring countries?
I mean, so our policies, so I want to speak, somehow I had a bias when I was coming here, some thoughts around this question as to, I mean, looking at how much impact people especially from Lagos here, we've made in the country with technology, the kind of jobs we're creating and all of that, and how much that government has paid attention to that, part of what we're doing here in Lagos. And then the ban of Twitter and, some policies that we have seen that is scaring us, that will keep pushing people away to other countries. But you and I know that Nigerians are actually, good at these things, and we are actually fast growing, developing a lot of our human capital for technological needs, which is global. I mean, you look at a market that is worth several trillions of dollars. Actually, by 2030, we're going to have that much deficit in tech talent. And so it is not something we should waste time on, because this is 2021, and we should heavily invest. We should create policies that are friendly, such that we can use our human capital development in technology to bring in more investment into the country.
Thank you very much for your time on the Breakfast Show this morning, Joseph Agubiade. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. And once again, a happy Democracy Day. We hope the government listens to all of this, and then we have a better Nigeria at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.